This petition is not political. It is a people's call upon Her Majesty the Queen of Australia and Head of State to give us back our democracy, disempowered by the Australian Parliament with the passing of legislation for a carbon tax for which there is no mandate from the Australian electorate, and to put a stop on any legislation which does not have a mandate from the Australian electorate. No mandate, no legislation. In living memory, including today in Afghanistan, millions of Australians have gone to war and given or committed their lives to protect the democracy of the Australian people from power-mad fanatics. Our democracy is representative government, of the people, by the people, for the people. Therefore, no mandate from the electorate, no legislation by the Australian Parliament. There is no mandate for the carbon tax legislation passed by this Australian Parliament. Before the last federal election, the current Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, explicitly promised the whole electorate, including Labor voters, there will be no carbon tax under the government I lead. The Deputy Prime Minister and Treasurer and other ministers committed to no carbon tax. The Prime Minister and her minority government, the Greens and Independents, disempowered the democracy of the Australian electorate. The Australians responsible for drafting and enacting the Australian Constitution anticipated the disempowerment by a federal parliament of the democracy of the Australian electorate, and gave Her Majesty the Queen of Australia and Head of State the constitutional power to disallow legislation passed by an Australian Parliament. See Section 59 of the Australian Constitution, in which the Queen may disallow any law within 1 year from the Governor-General's assent. Feel free to press pause so that you may read more closely the following documentation. In correspondence, Her Majesty the Queen of Australia has been called upon to protect the rights and interests of the electorate by disallowing the legislation for a carbon tax. In reply, Buckingham Palace has advised Her Majesty acts on the advice of her Australian ministers, that is, this Prime Minister and ministers of the minority government who disempowered the democracy of the electorate. Her Majesty has been informed that it is this Prime Minister, ministers and others who have passed this legislation, which a majority of the electorate did not vote for and do not want. Trust Her Majesty the Queen of Australia and our Head of State to give us back our democracy. 1 million Australians are needed to sign the petition to stop the introduction of the carbon tax on the 1st of July 2012, which a majority of the electorate did not vote for and do not want. To date, nearly 1,000 Australians have signed the petition. Act now and sign the petition to re-empower your democracy and stop the carbon tax being introduced on the 1st of July 2012. No mandate from the Australian electorate, no legislation by the Australian Parliament for present and future generations of Australians. Otherwise, your vote at the last federal election counts for nothing, and politicians who have lost sight of Australians' democracy control the federal parliament. Australians want democracy and jobs, not disempowerment and the carbon tax. Please help us to help you to help us all by signing the petition and asking at least 10 family and friends to sign. If we each do this, 1,000 signatures will become 10,000 signatures, and then 100,000 signatures and 1 million signatures. Then trust in Her Majesty to re-empower our democracy by disallowing the carbon tax legislation. United in our democracy, we can do it. Spoken for Derek Smith.